All right, let's get right into it. So I've been thinking about how to address all the law enforcement activity that's going on around in hip hop. Not only this beginning of this year, but last year as well, all throughout. You know, it started with the arrest of Diddy and continued throughout the trial of Young Thug was the year before that. And in looking over the recent activity, the big arrest of several individuals in California, Big U, the guys who appear on No Jumper, Luce and Bricc Baby, and all of this Fed activity. You know, this piggybacks off my last video where I talked about Academics, Adam 22, DJ Vlad, Wack 100, Trap Lord Ross, the Fantastic Four. These people who kind of lean into making sure that the hip hop media space is dominated by criminal activity and people snitching on themselves and snitching on each other and all kind of just exploitative measures. But in doing some research about everything that's going on with that case and the previous cases, I knew a lot about the Diddy case because that was my time coming up as far as listening to hip hop. All those rumors have always been around about everything that was going on around Diddy, about the Tupac stuff, everything that has been going on throughout all the years, Shine, the whole thing, right? And what came to my mind was the movie Training Day. Now, Training Day came out in 2001. So it's been out for a long time. And those of us who came up in hip hop, pretty much everybody has seen the movie Training Day starring Denzel Washington, right? And when you think about it, okay, when you look at everybody's situation, the situations, first of all, are very similar, right? You have individuals who are rumored to have broken the law, rumored to have, whether it be gang affiliations, whether it be just affiliations with illegal activity in general. You have people who have these ties and these rumors, but somehow never face any kind of penalty or any kind of real charges as far as any kind of lawsuits that they do end up in at times, right? Or even charged with any kind of activity that they may participate in, even if it's caught on camera. This is going to be important as I keep continuing this, right? Because here, in Training Day, if you haven't seen the movie, I'll just break it down right quick. Denzel Washington plays a dirty cop. The dirty cop has numerous people, criminals, that he befriends in order to, I guess, get information or just to keep them in the street so that he can have other criminals or they can lead him to other criminals that he can collar, right? He ends up getting into a situation with some other gangsters. That situation ends up being more trouble than he and his value as far as the criminals he is worth. And the people who are above him, who are judges and police sergeants and government officials and things like that, who have allowed him to break laws as he himself is supposed to be a officer of law enforcement, they deem him to be more trouble than he's worth, and they allow him to be executed by the people who he owed money to for the crime that he committed against the gang members. If you've seen Training Day, you know the story. But the moral of the story is he was a cop, or he was a person who was allowed to live above the law, so to speak, until he wore out his welcome and was no longer useful to the people who allowed him to do this. Now, that movie is based on several real life situations where things like that took place, whether it be with law enforcement agents who were dirty, right? Their conspiratorial things with judges, the whole nine. There are real cases that are based on that, right? That's not the norm at all, okay? So this is not an indictment on our legal system or police as a whole. Want to make that clear, right? But these things do take place. So when you look at, let's take the case of Puffy. I'm not going to take the recent case because that case with Big U and all of them at No Jumper, not all the facts have been come out about that, and people are innocent until proven guilty, period, right? But just the Sean P. Diddy Combs case, the tape that pretty much got him arrested, which is when he was assaulting Cassie at the hotel. You know, that tape being suppressed the way it was. All of the incidents he has had where he allegedly assaulted people in front of people at parties and different other places, and no charges ever. Okay, there's plenty of other things that Sean Combs had gone through that could be seen as, well, why was he being what seemed to be let off of these situations, right? And it was long rumored that he was an informant. Now, whether that's true or not, we won't know until, I guess, all the facts come out in court. Or you probably never know that if he was working with law enforcement, really, because they would probably never tell that. But here's the thing: all people have to do is think, right? Because in the recent case, people are admitting to possible crimes on camera multiple times. And here's what I do know: I do know that on this platform, YouTube, correct? Whatever they use for monitoring what you say on YouTube, it's very efficient at catching certain words and things like that, right? Certain subject matters being discussed. So I would imagine that law enforcement, especially federal law enforcement, has as good of a technology, if not better, to monitor the internet. So I think what everybody has to start thinking about, right, is if that's the case, if they know what people are saying, what people are talking about, and they know, and we watch people all the time kind of indict themselves in interviews and IG live posts and clips and things like that, that could really mean that people are being allowed to do so. Now, the question is why? Why are they being allowed to act as Denzel did in Training Day, right? And kind of just do a bunch of illegal things. For what purpose? To what end, right? When you see the promotion of a criminal lifestyle promoted by somebody who has a background like Drake, right? Somebody who we know is not of that kind of lifestyle. Somebody who Lil Wayne said his main advice to that artist early on in his career was be himself and not try to rap about the things that he did not live. When you see artists fall so easily into the culture of checking in, which can be seen as extortion, right? Or a form of it, and them being comfortable with that. And you have to realize that most security for artists are police officers or retired police officers of some sort. When they were doing the seizure of P. Diddy's home, there was a lot of illegal substances found within it. At these parties that they have, there's a lot of illegal substances flowing at the party. Again, law enforcement is in the vicinity and somehow nothing, right? So when we look at these people put on trial, who are the hip hop moguls or the hip hop artists or just the people who are affiliated with the hip hop scene in general, and they take all of the heat for what is happening, you have to ask the question if the public knows, right? If the gossip columnist knows, if the casual fan knows, if the nerd on the internet who's reporting on it knows, how does law enforcement not know? And if they do know, why are they not doing something about it sooner? Now, that's not a question for me to answer because I don't have the answer to that, right? But what I do want to point out is, and I've mentioned this before, I can't remember which video it was, but the song by Outkast, Spodioti, Dopalicious, Cadillac Angels, which is, I believe, on the Aquemini album. Big Boy, the end of the song, or the end of the verses of the song is real long, but the last part where he talks about somebody losing their job from the postal service and then going back to the trap, and then he says, and that's just what it is, trapped. And he says, go on and marinate on that for a minute. Here's the thing. At some point, especially those who are trying to be musicians and music artists, have to quit falling into the trap of believing that somehow because you are famous, that someone will allow you to be like Denzel in Training Day and be above the law. Because even in Training Day, that only lasted for so long. And by the end of the movie, his character was no longer. As a matter of fact, that's how the movie ended. So this is what we have to do as a hip hop culture, is we have to start taking accountability for not only not putting our head in the sand when things are obviously, kind of in your face, being exploited, and we act like, that, we don't know what's happening, or they're just, or that's just the way it is. All these kind of excuses. Like I remember when Schoolboy Q was on Drink Champs and he talked about people checking in and ending up getting robbed, and somehow you thinking that checking in is going to stop you from getting robbed. You checking in with people you don't know anything about, from a city you don't know anything about, instead of just going like a regular tourist to a hotel, to a nice dinner, staying downtown, going to Dave and Buster's or something like that, and then taking your behind back to your hotel room and trying to go to the hood and again portray this lifestyle that you think you know about but you really don't. And especially if you're from a hood in your city, you know nothing about other cities, so you shouldn't go there. All these logical things that used to be seen and known as street smarts seem to have gone out the window. And when you see somebody like a Drake appear to be something from being a young person, I'm talking about the younger generation now, because they grew up seeing these kind of fake people appear to get away, right, with criminal activity, appear to be quote unquote mob ties and still be the biggest artists in the world, right? Or be a big mogul and own a lot of companies and own a vodka and all those things, right? And then you hear all these rumors about they got off on all of this criminal and street activity, and they don't know that the setup is there. The trap is there for them to try to emulate the same thing and then fall into the trap. So to me, really the only useful thing to come out of this, no matter what anybody is guilty of or found guilty of, because it's just another case and somebody's just gonna go to jail yet again, right? How many hip hop artists, moguls, whoever have we seen go to jail? Quite a few, right? So the gossip part of it is not what's important, but that's what everybody wants to focus on. What's important is how long is our culture gonna keep falling for the same dumb trap? And everybody is supposed to be so hood and so street and so smart. Y'all not looking hood smart to me, ever. If you falling for this being promoted and seen the way it is, right? I'm not talking about the people who in it. The people who in it made a choice. They just chose to be in it, right? They thought one thing and they thought it was one way and it's the other way. And you know what show that comes from, right? But what we need to focus on instead of always focusing on the gossip is we need to focus on the lessons that you should get from Training Day, from The Wire, from all these shows that we love and all these instances and all this music that we love. Because see, when I do Lyrics Explained, a lot of times people want to keep focusing on the dumb-ish, which is why I don't do them as much. I'll get back to them, right? But I need the right kind of people listening to me do it, because y'all that want to show me how street you are, right? By taking the most basic meaning from a lyric and not getting the underlying meaning or lesson in it, you're annoying me. I'm just gonna be honest. I think you're annoying all of us, to be totally honest, because we can't keep the same nonsense going on. There's nothing to it, right? And I also get plenty of comments of people saying, well, why don't you explain further for those of us who don't live in that area, or I'm a white guy and I don't see. Those are police type comments. I'm just gonna say it. And that's because they've gotten so used to you all snitching on yourselves and everybody else at the same time. When really what we should be doing is getting away from that activity and mindset completely. Because as you can see, it's not gonna lead anywhere but to jail or a cemetery. That's it. Okay, you're not gonna beat the game. There's no such thing, because it is not a game, it is a trap. Shout out to Outkast and shout out to Big Boy specifically. All right? So that's all I got, man. Let me know what y'all think in the comments below about all of this, the Big U situation, if you want to talk about that, or whatever you want to talk about as far as all this criminality in hip hop. Real charges, real time being served out, quite a bit. So let me know what y'all think in the comments below, man. Hit that like button if you haven't hit that like button already. Hit that subscribe button if you're not subscribed. We watching the party die. Hit that notification bell. Share this video. Tell a friend, tell a friend. Thank y'all for watching as always, and we out.